biggest race on Thursday comes in the Ryanair Chase. The Stairs Hurdle looks like a fantastic renewal. Yes, we will have had Gaelic Warrior potentially slooshing up in the Turners, but it is the return of Allaho, the absolute aeroplane. He doesn't quite look his old self. That Clonmel Oil Chase at the beginning of the season was good, where he beat Janadil. It was very, very testing ground. He didn't quite have the same Allaho spark. And he's running the King George, right? He was third. He would have finished fourth. It was a good run when they did a lot of racing early on. As much as he's won over 3 miles, I don't really think it's his ideal trip. It just shows that the Ryanair is going to be his bit. But again, there was a little bit of the spark of Allaho missing. But in the context of this race, if Allaho, I know people will say this, you can't have a horse at 90%. If Allaho's 90%, he will do what Valtor did in the Ryanair Chase, except without the expletive saying, why didn't you run him in the Gold Cup? We've answered the question why he doesn't want to run over that sort of distance. We know he doesn't want to run in a champion chase. Allaho definitely wins the Ryanair Chase. About 6 or 7 to 1, I think he was best price in the summer. I did put him up in a video at 6s. He's 11 to 4 on the machine now. You can get 5 to 2 top price with some weird looking bookies, but like a 9 to 4 poke, I think he is. Suspect some bookies might want to try and get him beat nearer the time as well. But I genuinely think if we were talking about any horses that are 2 to 1 or bigger in the Cheltenham Festival, and you only had to have one belt, or you had to have loads of money on, I would be significantly wagering into Allaho. Now, he has had an injury, right? He had that bleed on the spleen, which isn't a particularly normal one. And there are concerns with horses not potentially going to Cheltenham. So the non-runner money back for William Hill, 7 to 4 is the price that he is there. If you were safe and you wanted to be that way inclined, then that would be the way to potentially think about it. But I think if you were trying to be safe, you just wait till the day now, right? Because he's going to be bigger than 7 to 4 on the day. So I wouldn't worry about time on him and non-runner money back. Allaho, for me, very quite simply just wins the Ryanair. I'm not so sold on Stage Star, right? I think he's obviously a very good horse, really does like it round Cheltenham, but he's not deserving to be in the same conversation with an Allaho. When they were sort of joint-ish favourites after his last run, I think it's an overreaction to the price that he's gone to now. But when they were joint favourites-ish before, I felt like that was a little bit rude. So as much as I'm really keen on Allaho, I will have some small stake saver with a little bit of profit on Stage Star now that he's 7 to 1. But I do fully expect that Allaho will win this race. I know people are talking about Envoy Alan for the race now, last year's winner. Obviously, Shishkin potentially making the form look a little bit better now as well. But there was no Allaho in the race last year. Allaho is the number 1 string for this race. And I think I've said it a couple of times now, but Allaho wins the Ryanair. Paul, I'm going to make you wait because you were so keen in the last preview to talk about a certain horse. Jamie, the very first Ranting and Racing we did, before we even talked about horses, I asked you if there were any horses you fancied for races at Cheltenham. You did talk about a particular horse for this race. And you got an entry,
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Protectorate, yeah.
I'm sorry, Paul will be fuming now because Paul wants to talk about him too, but you can share it. You can
I'll let Paul dip in further.
Leave this one to you.
Where would you go away with that?
He's a big old price now in the context of it. At the start of the season, he was about the same sort of price. He's 33 to 1 and he's 14 to 1 non-runner money back. Fuck the non-runner money back. 33 is there or 70 on the exchange.
No, sorry, I got 25s. He was start of the year. Sorry, 25 to 1. Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the Ryanair. Go
on. Yeah, he should be running here, but has the 2 Gold Cup runs finished him, and that could be it for him. He's probably going to run the Cotswolds Chase. He does not stay at the Gold Cup trip, and I think if you bang him out here in a Ryanair, I think he'd have a right chance. That's just me. I've always said he should be in this race, and I think he'd have a cracking chance in this. No, I wouldn't take any notice of Stage Stars running the last day because, to be honest with you, I don't know why they even ran him in that race. To be honest with you, it was stupid. To be honest with you. My problem with Allaho would be the same problem that I've had Allaho after King George with Frodon in the race. The more front runners in the race would seriously worry me about Allaho, with all his problems and how many awards he's been in and how many top class performances he's given. That is there another top class performance in him? And I'd be slightly worried. No, obviously, you know exactly what you touched on, Dave. Peak out of form, even a 95%, 90% out of all, will probably beat all these on good ground.
But he's not. He isn't peak Allaho right now. As his
He's
biggest
not the
fan, he's
same.
not. Is he?
He doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same. Now, the other thing as well about the Frodan race and the King George and whatever, he was ridden to get the trip, which didn't sit well with me because he won a Punchestown Gold Cup over the same trip. Now, Punchestown's different and it's a quicker track, probably the way they loop around quicker. Do you know what I mean? At Punchestown compared to Kempton, but I didn't understand that for the life of me that he was ridden to get the trip because he won a Punchestown Gold Cup over 3 months. This race is very much up in the air. After last day, I still don't think there's an argument out the stage car is good enough. So I'm going back to, obviously, you know what I'm going to say. Obviously, I like Protector if you're around here, but I'm going back to my two old buddies. My two old buddies are Edwardstone and Envoy Allen. Envoy Allen, the quicker they go, the better his chance, I think, because the way they went quick last year in the Ryanair and he came home. Envoy Allen doesn't have a kick, in my opinion. He just needs a fast-paced aim at, and he'll travel all over you, and he'll just have enough to get home. Do you know what I mean? Is it a better Ryanair this year? Of course it is. Was it what now? The only thing is Shishkin was in the race. Does Shishkin really like Cheltenham? That's the other side of it too. And is he better going right-handed? That's another thing with Shishkin. Don't mention Shishkin anymore, but anyway, and a fast run race in a Ryanair, and you have to remember against John Bond in the Tingle Creek, he posted his second best career best RPR against John Bond, Edwardstone, and I think if he didn't make a Horlicks of this, was it the middle railway fence in the Tingle Creek, it'd have been a lot closer. So if you think John Bond is going to win the Queen Mother, and this is a fast-paced Ryanair, and he has a paced aim and it's good ground, isn't Edwardstone a bet at top price 12-1? And to say that he's still a good horse? And to me, I think he still is. And I will be going with my old favourite. I know I'm probably saying the same thing, like I always repeat myself, and I might be waffling. Fair enough, people can crit me for it. But I just like him. I love this horse, Edwardstone. He made me a lot of money in the Arkle. And yeah, I think we'll go with him. Edwardstone.
I can see the case for it. It feels a little bit like the year that Footpad got beat when Frodan won it, where you can make a case for a handful of them, and then after the race gets won, you look back and think, actually,
it's a really good race. It's a really good race this year.
And it's deep as well, because as much as I do fancy Allaho, I fancied him when he was the 6-1. Like I say, I still do think the 9-4 about him isn't bad. Obviously, on the machine, he's a little bit bigger, but I would still say within the context of all of it, he's still got more chance of getting beat in the race than he has of winning it. I'm not saying I think this horse should be odds on, but I wouldn't pin my colours to the master of any particular one in behind that's going to beat him. I do think that Stage Star, Envoy, Edwardstone, I appreciate it's got no chance that he won't even come here, but like we talk about some of the other ones further down, like a Protector, there are a handful of horses that could take him on. So, Paul, you do like to get stuck in anti-post. Please tell me, you must have someone Allaho at 6-1 or 5-1 or 4-1. You must have got a bit on him, surely, just for the fact of it's Allaho, isn't it?
I have. And, I thought that was... Look, you had to take the price, didn't you? When it was there, you had to take it. I thought it was a really odd way to ride him in the King George. Jamie touched on it. They almost rode him like a non-stayer, which was just bizarre, because he stays. He might not quite get the Gold Cup trip.
RSA.
3 miles, flat track, good ground. I mean, it takes no more getting than, a Ryanair. So I thought it was a really strange way of riding him. And, I think Hewitt won. It kind of flatters Hewitt, really, because of the way Allaho was run. I think if they'd just taken that race on, he'd have won it easily. And I think the good thing about that was, whilst it doesn't tell you he's back to the level he was, Cheltenham before last, it does tell you he retains his ability. He's going to be, he's still a 170 plus horse.
Yeah. And
170 plus is something that none of the others are. That's kind of it, really. Stage Star is going to top out at high 160s. So I can't see Stage Star beating Allaho. Envoy Allen is not a 170 plus horse. I don't know what rating was given for last season's Ryanair, but it was just a bad race. Shishkin would have beat him if he hadn't made a howler of the last, wouldn't he? So Edward Stone, I get that line of thinking, but I think he's probably short as well. He's not a 170 plus horse. I think he's another mid to high 160s. The two horses that I thought three horses in actual fact that I thought could potentially be 170 plus horses in the context of this race. One's been talked about, Protectorat. The other one's Conflated. Why on earth would the O'Learys send Conflated to the cross-country chase? I just don't get it. He's still running in Grade 1 races. He's still competitive in Grade 1 races. He's not being beaten very far. He's still running up to around those 170 type marks, and he's a better horse over less. And this is their race; they sponsor it. So why on earth would they not send Conflated to the Ryanair? It's not to protect a mark for the Grand National, for God's sake. What? Surely this is his race. It was his race last year, to be frank. Surely they have to come here this year. It's their race. They sponsor it. He's not going to win a Gold Cup. He has to come to the Ryanair. And if he comes to the Ryanair, I think he possibly gives Allaho most to do. The final horse for me is Banbridge. Banbridge, wherefore art thou, Banbridge? Does anybody know who's injured? Has anybody heard anything? I've not heard anything. It's just
probably been too much rain, isn't there?
Well, he wants better ground, but you hit a point where you have to decide you're going to do something with your horse. It doesn't matter whether you're Joseph O'Brien or God. The bottom line is, the owners are going to want a race. Ronnie Bartlett is going to want his horse to run a race somewhere.
He's a bit blue on odds checker, to be fair. He's shortened up with everyone bar Bet365. He's as short as 16s in places that have shortened.
Well, look, the thing is, we know he acts around Cheltenham. He's completely unexposed. He was an improving horse. He clearly is ground dependent. So you probably want the no run and no bet, which is probably what, 10s or something, maybe.
10s exactly, yeah.
So you probably want that price, but he's going to go close if he gets his ground, I think. And there isn't an injury we don't know about, because I've not heard anything. Have you guys heard anything?
Not at all, no.
No. Was he supposed to come to the?
Then I've asked around and around and around and around, and nobody can tell me about an injury. So, I've worked quite hard to find somebody that can tell me there's something wrong with the horse, and I can't find anybody.
Maybe they're talking about the Ascot chase, which they've done with like Fakir in the past and stuff, and maybe that's why there's been a little bit of money for him. Maybe he has a setback, and they're just plotting some stuff with him now.
That's a really good point, actually. That's a really good point. It's a route they've used, as you say. So, but they've got to get him out before the Ryanair somewhere, and that would be a logical place to start. And if there's a little bit of blue, entries are due on Sunday, aren't they? The chase at Ascot, I think. Is it? No, it's the weekend after, isn't it? 2 weeks. 2 weeks time.
Yeah.
But you could see him, Paul, turn up in the 2 miler at the DRF, because there probably won't be much in it.
You could, but the problem with that is then they'll decide it's a champion chase horse.
Yeah, you probably win that on decent enough ground, and they'll think he is. Yeah.
Do you know, actually, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought about that, given the context of the champion chase right now. I wouldn't put it past Joseph to think I might go and run there. I haven't thought about that. Has he got an entry?
I actually don't know that, but I just for some reason, like he just might use that DRF race as a prep for the Ryanair.
Yeah, he could. I am curious now. Now we've had this conversation.
But we'd definitely want to see him out if he weren't taking the non-runner money back. That's for sure. But as soon as he starts getting an entry, that will be the key thing. It's like with some horses we've talked about before, like with the It's For Me getting the entry in the Moscow Flyer potentially. Like there are some horses like these ones that once they get an entry, that's the time to act, rather than having to wait for a declaration. Because if they've got something wrong with them, they don't even waste the entry fee money, do they, to try and save face. So we'll see how it goes. But Allaho's going to shit home in the Ryanair, I believe, is the summary that we're all agreed with, whether they want to say it or not, ladies and gentlemen. We're wrapping it up there. We're moving on to the Stairs Hurdle.